As a newborn neutron star with an enormous magnetic field, a magnetar is an excellent analogy, according to the researchers. X-ray flares are also produced by magnetars. Magnetars are assumed to be newborn stars, yet elliptical galaxies, which contain older stars, are found near the two flaring objects in this research. According to the experts, the artifacts are probably too ancient to be magnetars because of their age. On Memorial Day, schools, government offices, post offices, and certain retailers are closed. In the United States, Memorial Day marks the beginning of the summer recreational season. Politicians deliver remarks, and President Barack Obama places a wreath at the Tomb of the Unknowns.
Children and teenagers who translate or interpret for family members or others who do not speak the local language are known as child language brokers. Children generally acquire the local language faster than their parents and other adults when relocating to a new nation.
Methane is a waste product of the oil and gas sector that produces 25 times more strong greenhouse gas pollution than CO2. Working with business to decrease these hazardous pollutants in half over the next 10 years will lower our greenhouse gas emissions considerably.
Progress wasn't always as seamless as it should have been. It was 1720 when the South Sea bubble deflated, and it was 1748 when the coffee house exchanges went up in flames. Once they were out of fashion in 1986, you wouldn't have staked the farm on London topping New York, Frankfurt, and Tokyo as Mammon's worldwide center, even at the time of Big Bang. According to a weekly news magazine, German legislators should encourage their European colleagues to press for incentives for zero-emission vehicles to be registered by 2030. When it comes to rehabilitation following an acute knee injury, we're looking for a decision aid that can assist patients understand when they can undertake certain exercises and at what intensity they can do them. I think this is a worthwhile endeavor.
This cafe's decor is warm and inviting. Several little wooden tables with no tablecloths, wooden chairs, and wonderful soft sofas can be found inside the cafe. A huge mirror is located near the entrance, giving guests the opportunity to examine themselves. Wooden cases with few portraits and photos line the walls.
Children language brokers are children or young people who translate or interpret on behalf of family members or others who do not speak the local language. When settling into a new country, children often learn the local language more rapidly than their parents and other adults.
Termites, the tiny creatures, have learned to create a comfortable home in some of the world's toughest climates. Outside, in the African savanna, the temperatures vary from 40 degrees in the day to 1 degree at night. Yet, inside the mound, the temperature stays constant.
One of the most common small-scale weather systems is the sea breeze. Temperature disparity between land and sea masses is caused by a difference in sensible heat flow in the lower atmosphere. A water body's substantial thermal inertia means that the air temperature above the water does not fluctuate much during the day when the air mass over land warms.
Trump has threatened to declare China a currency manipulator, but experts say he has a little legal or economic basis to take such a step. He has also threatened to impose a tariff of up to 45% on Chinese imports if Beijing doesn't behave, a move that could lead to a trade war and damage the economies of both nations. Whether or not an applicant has passed the test is decided by the department. The Director of Graduate Studies may suggest to the Dean of the Graduate School that a candidate's presence for the final public oral examination be excused if doing so would place a significant financial burden on the candidate.
The control condition was identical, except that subjects were not given the paragraph with the false information and rated Natalie only once. After all, the amount of student loan debt owed in the United States is actually enormous. The average 2015 U.S. college graduate who took out loans to pay for education had $35,000 in student debt when they enter the workforce. The entire amount of student loan debt in the United States now surpasses $1.15 trillion, dwarfing the nation's credit card debt, for example.
In a world where the climate is changing at a rate not exceeded in the geological record, the Arctic is on the front lines, experiencing the most rapid warming of any region on the planet. Once considered remote and disconnected, now we know that changes within the Arctic can have a direct impact on the rest of the world.
Corruption is a pernicious disease that has infected the nation's roots. In simple terms, corruption occurs when a person in a position of power decides to use his or her position to enrich themselves. Corruption occurs as a result of the government system's infiltration by persons with no morals who seek authority solely for the purpose of making unlawful money. Homelands are revising their opinions of their diasporas as the stigma attached to emigration declines, and stepping up their engagement efforts. Meanwhile, host countries are witnessing more assertive diasporic groups within their own national communities, worrying about fifth columns and foreign lobbies, and suffering outbreaks of diasporaphobia.
Viruses are by far the most abundant life forms on the planet, according to scientists' findings. Viruses outnumber stars by 1,000,000 to 1. Viruses also contain the vast majority of the world's genetic diversity. Viruses as a planetary force, influencing global climate and geochemical cycles, is being discovered by scientists. There were times in the first 2 or 3 years following the Second World War when a newly published book would sell out within months. The only time they could republish a book was if the demand for it was extremely strong. They could not afford to waste precious paper or tie up their little money with a reprint because of the restricted supply of paper.